Well, hello and welcome to episode 495 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and in this week's show, we have our weekly roundup of the latest mishaps with our favourite North American plane maker, an airline getting in hot water over an unqualified pilot, and a Beluga goes transatlantic, and a discussion about whether you'd fly on a MAX. In the military news this week, we have news on the SR-71 replacement, F-35 delays, and a crashed drone in Poland. The Caption This competition picture has been getting a lot of interest this week, and we hear more from Nev all about the drone summit in Dublin. Joining me over, and I'm going to read all this script, which has been kindly written by Nick this week. Joining me over in the PTUK Master Suite studio is none other than the Mr. Breakfast Show himself. It's Matt Smith.
Oh, for goodness sake. Hello, morning. No, what is it? Date? Evening.
Yeah. 1 minute past 7, we're all right.
Yeah, oh, very good, very good. Yeah. Not 7 a.m. though, right?
No,
yeah,
no.
Right, okay.
Again, haven't seen you for ages, Matt.
I know. It was, what, 5 hours? Something like that? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Terrible, isn't it?
But no, good to see you in there as always, Matt. Pressing all the right buttons as you do each week. And also joining me over in the leafy lanes of Buckinghamshire. It's everyone's favourite. It's everyone's favourite, Mr. Know-It-All, Neville Bounds.
Oh. No, I don't know it all, and you know that. I don't even know a tenth of it. Anyway, it's great to be back. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I was in Budapest last week for 3 days with Mrs. Nev, a very good city. If you've not been before, I've been about 5 or 6 years ago on business, but I went this time just for a bit of leisure and relaxation, and it was great. The weather was nice as well. Quick rant, if I may.
Oh, hang on. I haven't got the stinger ready. One second.
Well, it's a hotel rant, really.
Okay,
not an aviation rant.
Attention, this is the final call for British Airways Flight 475. Paging for passenger Mr. Neville Bounds. Your seat 1A is waiting for you.
Or bed 1A in this case.
We stayed the previous night at the Hilton Garden Inn, which is the one near the maintenance hangars at Heathrow, which Carlos and I have stayed at previously as well. Very nice hotel, very nice folks in there. Unfortunately, you can't account for people that stay in the hotels. That's a very big hotel for crews that are overnighting there as well. So sleep is important for them, you would have hoped and you would have thought. Unfortunately, the lady that was in our room, the room next door to us with her child, the child seemed to be fairly well behaved for the most part. Unfortunately, between midnight and 4 o'clock, there was endless noise, mainly from the lady, not necessarily from the child, and we didn't get any sleep at all.
Okay.
But there was already several other complaints about it. Before we got to reception, and the manager and the supervisor, they were very understanding, and they very kindly refunded all my points for the stay, because I bought the hotel on points, or our rooms on points rather. But it is interesting, isn't it, that if you smoke in your room, you're fined £500 or £1,000 or whatever it is, but there's no fine or sanction for antisocial behaviour. And I think there needs to be, especially with some of the bigger hotel groups as well. Just completely unacceptable, and it absolutely ruined our first day because we were absolutely wrecked when we got there. But very unfortunate. But I'm over it now. But I wanted to get it out of the way. Otherwise, I get cross if I have to think about it anymore.
Good to hear, Nev. Good to hear. You got that off your chest. You can sit back and have a nice glass of Pinot now. You'll be fine.
Absolutely.
And also joining us for the first half of the show this evening, the coolest man to hit the skies. It's our very own jet jockey, Armando.
I beg your pardon. Oh, what now?
Speaking of Matt, you might have to throw a family show in there because of the chat room.
Oh, really?
Based on
I daren't look. I daren't look.
Nev's hotel adventures.
Hang on a moment. It's been a while. Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
There you go. That's just for you, Dirk. Hi. It's always a pleasure to be here live.
Good to see you, Armando. Been a busy week for you?
Not too busy, mostly housework, but I did have a hawker trip yesterday, which was entirely uneventful, which is how we like it. Beautiful day to fly, no issues whatsoever.
So the question is, did you enjoy a pint of Guinness on Sunday?
Oh.
I did buy a 4-pack of Guinness. That's how they come here in the US. So I did, indeed. Charlotte's kind of like a weird connection to the UK and Ireland, right? Because it's the Queen City, Queen Charlotte.
Ah, yeah.
So we go bananas for St. Patrick's Day. Suddenly everybody's Irish in Charlotte on St. Patty's Day.
Trying to find any link in any way possible. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and then in honor of St. Patty's Day, here we are. I found a green airplane to put in the background.
Right. Okay.
Chat room, you can let me know what it is.
Yeah, we've done
extra points if you know which airplane, like specifically this is.
Oh, okay.
I think Richard E. Flag has got a little something in the chat room there that possibly could be right.
Oh, is he?
You know what? He's on to something. Other hosts. Is he correct? Is this a Cessna?
I don't know.
I mean, it's green.
There you go. You'll chomp on it for a little while.
I've not. It's got drop tanks on the wing.
Darren's got it. It is a Cessna A37 Dragonfly. Extra points if you know the tail number and where this airplane currently lives.
10779.
Yeah, that's just there to throw you off.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's for all Australian listeners.
We'll leave that with you, guys and girls. Answers on a postcard. Send it in.
Good job, Darren. And Richard.
Going to say hello to everyone in the chat room who's joined us this evening. Going to say Mazoos, he was in nice and early this evening. Hello to you, Richard Adams. Hobby Time. We've got, let me scroll down. Alan White, hello to you, Alan. Dirk is also in there. Nick Codling, he's good to see Nick in there, you know. Tanya W as well. Hello, Tanya. Great to see you in the chat room as well. Bill, good evening, Bill. Nana's in there as well, saying good evening, guys. We've got Aaron P. Hello to you. Aircrew Interview. Good evening to you as well. Masha. Hello, Masha. Hope you're well. Flyer152 is also in there. Our main man, Uncle Micah, is also in the chat room. Sturman, good evening to you as well, Sturman. Good to see you in the chat room. And Richard E. Flag as well. Just scrolling down, make sure I don't miss anyone out. Neville Bounds is in there as well. That's always exciting. Stuart Thomas, hello to you. Darren Smith as well. Good to see you in the chat room. And Rose is also in there as well. Hello to you all. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. Look for us on there, Plain Talking UK. And also hit the subscribe and bell icon to be notified when we are live and recording new episodes like we are right now. So, loads of commercial news to get through and tons of stuff to get through on the show tonight. So, if all the team's ready.
Oh, yes.
Ready.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So the first story this week comes from theguardian.com. This one made Twitter and I think most of the social media sites when the news broke on this. The Boeing cockpit seat switch mishap reportedly led to LATAM flight incident. This happened earlier on in the week. Another Boeing jet facing scrutiny after the plane maker told airlines to check the cockpit seats of the 787 Dreamliners following a terrifying drop during a flight from Sydney to Auckland. Dozens of people on board the LATAM Airlines Flight 800 were said to have been hurt when the plane fell sharply, throwing passengers around the cabin. Going to mention something about this later because that's annoyed me slightly. Boeing has recommended that airlines inspect cockpit chairs of the 787 jets for loose covers on switches, according to the Wall Street Journal, which reported that the unnamed US industry officials said the incident was a result of a mishap and a flight attendant serving a meal hit a switch on the pilot's seat, pushing the pilot into the controls. In a memo issued on Thursday, seen by the newspaper, Boeing said that closing a spring-loaded seatback switch guard on a loose rocker switch cap could potentially jam the rocker switch, resulting in an unintended seat movement. Boeing said investigation of Flight LA 800 is ongoing, and they defer to the investigation authorities on any potential findings. They said they've taken the precautionary measure of reminding 787 operators of a service bulletin issued back in 2017, which included instructions for inspecting and maintaining switches on flight deck seats. They said we are recommending operators to perform an inspection at the next maintenance opportunity. The company is already grappling with safety crisis after the cabin panel blowout, as we all covered on the Alaska Airlines flight back in January, and regulators grounded all 171 MAX 9 aircraft for several weeks, and they are still inspecting the plane maker's production line. Early this week, Boeing has said it was in contact with LATAM, and it stands ready to support the investigation into what happened. They said, we are thinking of the passengers and crew from LATAM Airlines Flight 800, and we commend everyone involved in the response effort. Byron Joka, a passenger, told that CNN that he had woken up as the aircraft dropped, something to the effect of 500 feet instantly. Upon landing, Jokat said the pilot told him that the gauges went blank and that for a brief moment he couldn't control anything, and before the gauges returned and the flight continued as normal. So, question is, I suppose, as we all know on the show, one thing that I think most of us do as seasoned flyers, Nev, I know you do, and obviously Nick, you know, even when you're not moving around the cabin or, you know, flittering around, having a jog up and down the aisle, you keep your seatbelt fastened. They tell you to do it when you have your safety brief, and I think pretty much all of us, you know, PTUK community would say that we all keep our seatbelts fastened when we are on a flight and we're not moving around the cabin.
Yes, definitely. Now, obviously, if you're cabin crew and you're operating a meal service, that's a more challenging situation. Or you're in the LAV, for example. Yeah, very unfortunate. Yeah, I think there's some review to be done on how that switch mechanism and the cover for it is working as well. But also, yeah, I mean, it's surprising perhaps it hasn't happened before as well, because it's clearly a possibility where that could be the case if someone leans into the cockpit if they're giving the crew their meal service. But presumably that yoke does need a reasonable amount of force to disconnect the autopilot, I would imagine, by pushing forward on it. But if it's big enough, then that was it. Yeah, but very fortunate that they managed to recover it quickly. But there were injuries, of course, in the cabin.
I'm going to be
slightly. Your thoughts on this?
I'll let Matt go first.
Oh, Matt. I was going to say I'm going to be a little bit controversial on this one, actually, and it depends a little bit, to be brutally honest with you. Some airlines I've had trouble getting a seatbelt extender, and so I've taken the seatbelt off and left it off during flight because it's very, very uncomfortable. And I guess this is an important sort of service announcement, as it were, in terms of the importance of wearing one. And I know they do it in the you know, like in the safety briefing and all that kind of thing. But I have to say that until recently, it had come off. You know, when we were once we'd sort of taken off, and probably very silly to do. Anyway, that's my confession. Please don't be horrible.
I am very skeptical that this was a seat switch. I don't think that's what it was. That you guys, so of us that have previously flown simulators, back at 200 and all that, you remember the seat does not move very fast. On the 787 and I believe the 777, the seat switch they're talking about is if you imagine your car right behind the headrest, so it sits right at the top. It's a flip cover, so just a rocker switch. But in addition to that, if you were to press that rocker switch, it moves very, very slow. As you guys remember from the simulators, it's not very fast. There's also a power cutout switch on all of the seats that have these electronic or electric motors, right by your right hip if you're in the left seat, left hip if you're in the right seat. kind of where your seatbelt would go in your car. There's a red power button cut out. What I think is going to happen here, it's going to be one of two things. Either if somebody did hit that switch, it was just a startle effect from the pilot, and they probably pushed the yoke. And when you're doing, Mach 0.8, Mach 0.85, it does not take very much movement. It does take a lot, like Nev said, to disconnect the autopilot, but when you do push it, it does move in a Boeing, and it when you're going that fast, even just a slight movement would go into negative G's. So I think it's going to be either complete pilot or crew error, or this kind of came and went very quickly. The Boeing service bulletin about you have to turn the airplane completely off every 22 days. Otherwise, there is a possibility of the flight management computers going completely dark. I think just whatever the memory fills up. And that is a known issue that has previously been published. So if LATAM did not turn the airplane completely dark in the previous 22 days, which is a possibility, there is a known issue where the aircraft could be rendered uncontrollable until it comes back up. Oh, wow. So I don't think it was just the rocker switch and the pilot got, yeah. See, Micah's asking, why doesn't the other pilot grab the control? Yeah, even if the other pilot did, if you were to just hit it, jam it, the airplane will dive. Even if you correct it immediately, everybody in the back of the airplane, especially, is already up out of their seats. And like the guys over at APG said, it's not the negative G's that hurts you. It's the positive G onset right after that, when everybody's coming back down to, hitting the armrest and the beverage carts and all that extra stuff.
It sounds horrendous. I'm not going to lie. As a nervous flyer, that is.
Yeah, I'm sure it was an emotional event, but I think it's going to come out that it was not just
right.
Seat back
unless
rocker
it does
switch.
come out.
Yeah.
Nev,
True.
You got the next story, and it's all kicking off in Guernsey.
Yes, I'm a bit distressed by this story, actually, because I do like this airline a lot. It's on bbcnews.co.uk, and it says that Guernsey Airline disruptions are a disgrace to the island, says local aviation group. Well, high flight prices and frequent disruptions are a shambles and a disgrace to the island, an aviation group has said. The Guernsey Aviation Action Group said ongoing issues with the island's airline Aurigny were creating a disincentive for business. The hospitality sector has also raised concerns over the airline's resilience at the beginning of March. Aurigny said it's been a difficult few weeks, but things will get better. The action group said that a longer airport runway would solve the issues, as it would allow British Airways and EasyJet to operate year-round services to Gatwick and Heathrow. This would remove Aurigny's monopoly, being the predominant airline in Guernsey. In September 2023, plans to extend Guernsey Airport's runways were defeated and delayed until the next time the runway was resurfaced. The group has now asked deputies to urgently revisit the debate, it said. There is overwhelming evidence to show that the fares provided by these two airlines to and from our sister island are manifestly lower than the fares we are experiencing here with Aurigny, and with their large fleets they have resilience to cope with any technical problems which might occur. The group also says that Aurigny had absolutely no resilience when it came to its aircraft. In February, Aurigny leased an A320 from Heston Airlines due to problems with an ATR 72, and in January it also leased an ATR 600 aircraft and crew from Eastern Airways. Aurigny's chief commercial officer, Sudeep Ghai, said it was replacing its only jet with two leased turboprop planes to significantly improve service resilience. Removing the embryo jet does not affect overall capacity, and in fact will increase the frequencies on offer to multiple points, particularly London, he said. Mr. Ghai said recent flight schedules had been impacted due to unforeseen technical challenges, staff illnesses and the weather. He said that Aurigny is an airline for a small island. This is not directly comparable to larger commercial airlines and different operating environments. We are not immune to the cost pressures our customers are facing or the disproportionate impact of global supply chain challenges that most small businesses face. We are confident that our evolution towards an ATR fleet this year is the most effective way to offer customers the most reliable service possible. Well, they've done very well with the ATR series over many years, actually. But yeah, there are certain challenges on the Channel Islands, mainly being the shortish runway operation. So the runway at Guernsey is just under 5,000 feet long, and Jersey is just over 5,500 feet long. And as Carlos and I know, landing slightly long in an A319, as we did, you can get a bit of a smell of the brakes towards the last section of the runway. But of course, the other thing that they don't really talk about here is the weather in Guernsey and Jersey. You can get fog there for many days per year because of the climate and where it is. And it's very possible to get fogged in or fogged out of the islands. And there's many aircraft that have attempted to land and ended up going back to Gatwick or Exeter or wherever or Southampton or whether they started from. So they just cannot get into the island because of the visibility. Now, I think this is a solvable thing. It's probably just as well they have taken out that Embraer jet because if you have a problem with that, then you've got very little other options, really. So with ATR crews more readily available and aircraft more readily available, it makes sense to run regional turboprop jets, regional turboprops rather than jets on those really short sectors. Then obviously BA and EasyJet come into Jersey quite a lot with their A319s and A320s, but for the inter-island operation and also the south coast of England to the Channel Islands, the ATR, I think, makes perfect sense. So it's a bit unfortunate, but I'm sure they'll get over. But I do like the operation, as I say. I think Aurigny is a great airline. I've flown them a number of times in the past. So let's hope things improve for them.
Just on a little quick price check on there, Nev, because I was intrigued to see what they charge to fly from. I just picked London Gatwick over to Guernsey and back on a return trip just in a few weeks' time, and their prices come out at £319 return for that trip.
It's a bit steep, isn't it? I would say.
And that is with just a carry-on.
Yeah. Pity. But no, I think the 195 that they were operating. If it did ever have any technical problems, that's always a problem. I think when you're relying on one aircraft to do certain of the longer sectors. Yeah.
Matt, you've got the next story. We're going back to Boeing with this one.
Indeed, it's aerotime.aero is the source on this one, and the headline is United Airlines pilot prompts NTSB probe into Boeing 737 MAX 8 rudder defect. The National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB, has published a preliminary report into an incident involving stuck rudders on a United Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8. The Boeing 737-8, registered November 47280, landed at Newark Liberty International Airport on the 6th of February 2024 when the captain reported that during the landing rollout the rudder pedals failed to move in response to normal application. The pilot said that while trying to maintain the runway centerline, the pedals remained in their neutral position, resulting in the nose wheel steering tiller being used until the aircraft slowed to a safe taxi speed. The first officer also reported the same problem when he was asked by the captain to test his rudder pedals. In a statement given to the NTSB, the captain said that the pedals began working as normal shortly afterwards. A review of preliminary flight data recorder, the FDR data, showed that around 30 seconds after touchdown, a significant pedal force input was observed along the corresponding rudder surface movement. On the 9th of February, February, following the 737-8 being removed from service, United conducted a test flight in which the same rudder system malfunction was identified, and the NTSB was subsequently notified of that issue. Post-incident troubleshooting and inspection of rudder control systems found no obvious malfunctions within the system or any of its components whose failure would have resulted in the restricted movement observed during Flight 1539 and the test flight, NTSB said in its preliminary report. The decision was then made to remove the aft rudder input torque tube, associated upper and lower bearings, and the rudder rollout guidance servo for further examination by the NTSB Systems Group. Following the removal of the rudder system components, UAL conducted a second test flight on the airplane and found the rudder control system operated normally, the NTSB explained in its report. On February the 28th, 2024, the SVO-730 rollout guidance servo was tested at the Collins Aerospace facility in Cedar Rapids. The testing was conducted to evaluate the effects that temperature, cold soaking of the servo might have on the torque required to move the servo's output crank arm. That's according to the NTSB. At room temperatures, the inspectors found no issue with the rollout guidance servo, but after the unit was cold soaked for 1 hour, testing found that the torque to move the servo's output crank arm was significantly beyond the specified design limits. The story does go on, but I think we get the gist there. We'll leave it there. Now, I suppose this is just basically. I mean, simply, I guess it is literally that, isn't it? They've sort of like, was this not sort of? I guess what I'm trying to say. Sorry, my apologies. Is that I'm surprised that it wasn't tested in a cold environment in any significant way before it was applied to an aircraft and signed off. That's my surprise.
These all aircraft in certification go to a climatic lab. It's a hangar. Perhaps you've seen pictures of it. The military has a couple, and there's a couple of civilian ones where you can put an entire airplane into a hangar and then make it like end of the world freezing. So they go through this in the certification process. As Aaron pointed out in the chat room, there is a history of rudder problems with the 737. Back in the 90s, there was a couple of crashes where they discovered there were some faulty parts back there. This is interesting that, there's thousands and thousands of 737 flights every single day. So to have this kind of isolated incident is interesting. I'm sure they're going to come up with some kind of service bulletin for this also. When the pilots were interviewed and they said that they had to use the nose wheel steering, generally you don't touch the tiller until you're at a low speed. Most of these aircraft, the tiller and the steering is hydraulically operated. Could be electric. Most of them are hydraulic. And if you just put a little bit too much input at high speed, you're just going to scrub the nose wheel and you're going to end up off the runway anyways. So believe it or not, with those giant rudders in most jets, we still have lots of rudder authority, all the way down to 40 knots ish if you're landing, or if you're taking off right around 40 knots, you kind of start transitioning from the tiller over to the rudder. But this is Boeing just can't catch a break, huh?
When will it end?
Yeah, right. Yeah, who knows? Yeah,
shame. Nev, you've got the next story, and this is a story that I've seen many programs about on the old telly box, and it is a very interesting and very very moving story. But this is all about a certain member of a flight deck crew, isn't it?
Yeah, this is some very sad news, actually. This is from airlineratings.com, and it's about Captain Eric Moody. Now, if you know anything about aviation and British Airways especially, you'll know that Captain Moody was a very, very well-known pilot for all the wrong reasons and all the right reasons. We just heard this week that he's passed away at the age of 84, which is a very, very sad thing indeed. But yes, of course, he was the miracle pilot who with his crew, nursed the 747 they were flying back to life after it flew through volcanic ash on a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Perth in 1982. Of course, it's always a team effort with these sort of flights, or any flight actually, and his crew were Senior First Officer Roger Greaves and Senior Flight Engineer Barry Townley Freeman. Captain Moody served with BA for 32 years, retiring in 1996 with over 17,000 flight hours. Well, the 747 City of Edinburgh was returned to service and continued flying until being retired in 2004, where it was scrapped at Bournemouth Airport, Dorset, in the UK here in 2009. Captain Moody was actually given the yoke from the 747 as a memento of the incredible escape. Captain Moody passed quietly in his sleep at his home in the UK. Of course, the story goes, he says over the PA, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have a small problem. All 4 engines have stopped and we are doing our damnedest to get them going again. I trust that you're not in too much distress." Well, the chilling address delivered by Captain Moody over 30 years ago has become the greatest airline passenger announcement of all time, and is brought back to life by the eruption of yet another Indonesian volcano. For the 263 passengers and crew aboard flight BA9, flying through a moonless night from Kuala Lumpur to Perth on the 24th of June 1982, they thought that death for everyone was only a matter of time. Initially, they were in awe of the strange static electrical light show outside, but that quickly turned to terror as the jet's 4 engines glowed white, spurted flames, and then stalled. It was 9:43 p.m. Horrific is how passenger Arthur Ewan of Scarborough described the feelings in the 2010 interview that he gave. "It still affects me and my wife today. The cabin was quiet, people were praying, we just hugged and held hands." And, well, it was a miraculous situation because they did actually manage to get 3 engines going again. And they made a textbook landing, but I think one of those it was with such a massive moment. I think it made everybody realise the dangers of flying through areas where there could be volcanic ash. And my only regret is that when very often Sky and BBC News came up with some airline incidents, they would always call on Eric to come on as the expert, which, you know, you can't deny his credentials for doing so. But it might have been a single engine failure, or there's been a depressurization, or, you know, not ideal, but, you know, in the full scheme of things, fairly okay in most situations. And he had to keep reminding the presenter. He said, "Well, I lost all 4 engines on a 4-engine aircraft, so that was my day out." But as always, his pithy comments were superb, and it said, "Despite the landing, despite many problems, was smooth and was greeted with thunderous applause and cheers from the passengers," Mr. Ewan said. And of course, Eric said, reflecting on this incredible event, he mused, "When I learnt to fly in the 50s, flying was dangerous and sex was safe. When I retired in the 90s, that had gone the other way round." And that's just typical of the man. And I did actually meet him once at Brooklands many years ago when he was visiting there with his family. But such a lovely gentleman, and a great shame that he's no longer with us. But yes, him and his crew certainly rewrote the rule book on handling those, you know, unprecedented situations and highly dangerous situations too.
And for those of you who might have missed the episode, if you want to go back and watch that episode of Air Crash Investigations, it was Season 4, Episode 2, where they covered the story of Speedbird 009. So there we go, if you have not seen it already. Matt, you've got the next story. We're back to Max again.
Oh no, really? Okay, all right. It's Nick's written this story apparently. Here we go. Brace yourselves. It's so the question that we're asking here. Am I asking the questions, or do I read the article and then ask the questions, Nick? That's what I'm asking. Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute there.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
reasonable.
if you'd just like to read the article as you would do normally, and then it's sort of one for a bit of a discussion amongst us afterwards.
Okay, very exciting. So if you could choose which aircraft type to fly on, would you do it? For those of us who might consider ourselves av geeks, it seems like the perfect scenario. Plan a trip and choose which aircraft to fly on. Perhaps we might consider the opportunity to fly on the Queen of the Skies before 747 passenger routes disappear, or maybe even just the chance to go for a 787 or A350 and see whether the composite fuselage and lower cabin altitude really does make for a more comfortable flight and a faster recovery from jet lag. We might have a flavoured type, we might have a favourite and indeed flavoured type because the cabin layout is good, or even that a certain airline might have a superior in-flight entertainment system, or maybe like the entire team here at PTUK, you can just love the Boeing 757.
That was planned.
Yes, I know. I'm smelling a rat. As air travel becomes busier, passengers seemingly become more intolerant or intolerable, perhaps, and airlines tighten their belts and offer less in the way of on-board perks. It's nice to be in a world where you can rely on choice and enjoy it. We've become very familiar with comparison websites in our day-to-day lives, and booking air travel is now no different. Many sites such as Expedia and Kayak have offered the functionality to search via aircraft type for some time now, and the Independent recently reported that there has been a 15% increase in people tailoring their searches to specifically exclude the 737 MAX. Oh, now that is interesting in the wake of the Alaska Airlines incident. However, one travel website has taken things a step further, but now providing a dedicated web page entitled "Which Airlines Are Not Flying the Boeing 737 MAX." Alternative Airlines is a travel aggregator site offering a fairly typical user interface. You choose departure and destination airports, select suitable dates, and wait to see who comes up best. If you've used these websites before, you may already have seen that they often tell you what the aircraft type will be, which always feels like a nice touch. Here they can take it one step further by offering a full rundown of which airlines specifically don't fly the MAX, organised by country or continent. It's pretty comprehensive and some might say quite useful. So really it leaves us to wonder, would you use this to plan a trip so that you can avoid the MAX, or just use it so that you can nerd out and see which aircraft are flying which routes? I'll be the latter, says Nick. So, in fact, actually, if you lead, I think, Nick, you should lead the discussion on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and bring this website up on screen, and then we can have a little bit of a play. So, take it away.
Okay, so yeah, what I was interested in is sort of seeing maybe amongst ourselves whether or not we would choose to avoid travelling on a MAX, or perhaps we might take the opposite and think, oh, actually, what I'd really like to do is go on an A350 or perhaps fly on a 747 before passenger services are no longer available. So, yeah, it was really just to try and see what the general consensus was amongst the team and see how everybody might choose to use a service like this.
Well, I'll start by saying I just went to that website, and their purpose is to sell airline tickets. It is just like Kayak, Orbitz, Kiwi, any of those other ones.
Yeah.
So when you click on this, it's just an additional filter. At the end of the day, it's just selling airline tickets like everything else. I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm not bothered by any of this. I wouldn't choose one airplane over another, even long haul going over to Europe. if an airplane's not safe, it wouldn't be certified to be grounded, as the Max was for a while, but like so many other airplanes have been also. So I do not consider it into my travel plans. I defer to you guys.
So, interestingly enough, my take on this, I think, I don't know, I don't know if, I'm nervous about saying this because I'm worried that I might be saying something that's either wrong, incorrect, out of turn, libelous. So, the incidents that made the Max famous, shall we say, for all the wrong reasons, involved airlines where one could argue there was a questionable safety record for those airlines. And I think one of the things that's really smacked home when we've had an incident with the Alaska Airlines 737 MAX and its door is that Alaska Airlines has the exact opposite reputation in terms of its safety. So
I think you are actually making Micah's point.
So my issue, I get, so the reason why this is sort of weirdly, the Alaska Airlines thing has made me more nervous because of their safety record. So you could have argued that possibly, all right, there were faults found. We know what happened, obviously, off the back of those incidents. That's fine. What I guess I'm nervous about is the fact that this is an airline whose safety record is pretty awesome, and yet something as awful as the door falling off did occur.
Well, and just think of our analysis of all of these mishaps, Matt, that we've talked about on the show. Every one of these, the Alaska Airlines, United Airlines, everything that we've talked about, we as hosts and aviation enthusiasts have mostly said the crews handled it in an expert manner. Yeah. They got back down on the ground safely, in nothing less than absolutely a professional manner. So I think that's what you're trying to say. Pay more, choose the right airline. The airplanes are safe. It's my take. Nev, you travel more than any of us.
Well, there's two points I want to make. Three, actually. One, I don't like other people booking my airline tickets for me. I'm a bit of a bit fussy like that, so I like to do it myself. Would I choose one aircraft over another one? I would in the case of people like Finnair. So they run A321s and A350s on the London to Helsinki routes, and I would always prefer to get on the A350 because it's a bigger aircraft and nice, but not for any safety reasons at all. And finally, I would have no qualms in going on a MAX whatsoever. I am of the firm belief that unfortunately, when one is born, there's a date stamp on your head, and it tells you when it's all going to end, and we never know when that's going to be. So I would prefer to go flying. It is the safest form of transport, but by some margin. Sadly, incidents and accidents do happen, but there's been no greater scrutiny than the MAX aircraft over the last few years, and all the stuff that's gone on at Boeing. So, I'm happy to get on it without any qualms whatsoever.
Yeah, I think for me, the only time the two times I've only ever chosen to book my flights on the basis of what aircraft was being used was purely just because it was the first time that we went to Dubai many years ago, and it's because I wanted to fly on a 380 and not a 777 because I'd flown on the 777 many times. So I booked that ticket for that reason. And the other time was to Oman when we flew with BA, Nev. And I booked the flight purely because I wanted to fly on the 350. And or not the 350, sorry, the 787-9, 787-9, and I booked the tickets just purely because it was on that aircraft and not the 777. But I mean, Matt knows my views because we were discussing this afternoon on flying and what my thoughts on flying any aircraft. Really, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But yeah, I wouldn't. I'm still yet to fly on the MAX, but I think according to the tickets that I booked for Malta in May this year, with me and my father, we're flying out on a Max. So, yeah.
I'm very much on the fence. I've got to be honest. As I say, like when it was sort of when these instances were involving airlines with a questionable safety record, you're thinking, well, you know, how much of it is really the aircraft and how much of it is, you know, perhaps the lack of experience in the cockpit or whatever. But as you say, when you've got big airlines like Alaska and that who are having problems, it does make me as a nervous passenger think, I'm not sure. Would I cancel my flight if, say, for example, we were doing the Dublin trip, for example, like we did only a few weeks ago, and the aircraft that was taking us was a Max? Would I have cancelled the trip? No. But it would have made me very nervous. And as a nervous flyer, it would be something that would make me quite nervous. And I appreciate that's an unpopular opinion amongst the companies to which I'm keeping at the moment, but this evening. But yeah, it's I'm not sure. So would I potentially use this as a website? Probably.
Good discussion, team. Well done. Thanks, Nick, for popping that together. Armando, do you want to introduce this next one?
Yeah, it's a caravan story about compliance. Matt, let's play it up.
Hey guys, Nick threw this story in there and I thought it was really interesting. The FAA has recently said that Southern Airways Express was putting passengers at risk by having an unqualified pilot fly on one of their routes. We don't actually know if this was due to an FAA audit or a training department self-disclosure. It could have even been a pilot self-disclosure. The route that they were operating was a Cessna Caravan between Washington Dulles Airport and Morganton, West Virginia. Morganton is Southern Airways' main base, and Washington Dulles is there in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. If you guys remember, just a few months ago, Southern Airways Express had a huge win. They were the ones that were operating that caravan from Washington Dulles up to Pennsylvania in hard IFR conditions when they had an engine failure and they put it down on a highway just west of the airport with no injuries whatsoever. So we know that their training department is effective, right? So just as a reminder, Southern Airways and airlines like it, they recently acquired Mokulele, they acquired Air Choice One, Boutique Air, Contour Airways. These are Part 135 operators, Part 135 scheduled operations. I've mentioned a couple times on the show, there's different levels of Part 135. Part 135 is basically anything where you're charging to take people A to B or cargo. Even Mountain Air Cargo is one of the biggest operators here in this area. They have both a Part 135 certificate and a Part 121 certificate based on their caravans and their sky couriers and the ATR operations, the ATR 72s. There are different levels of Part 135 operation. Southern Airways is the highest level of that. They're a scheduled operator or a scheduled Part 135. That means they have more than 5 flights from different points to on a scheduled basis carrying passengers. They have lower standards than your major airlines like American Airlines, Delta Airlines. Those are 121 operators. They have lower standards, but they are the highest of the Part 135 standards. Also, a Cessna Caravan, similar to the operators that operate the PC-12 on these routes, it's a single-engine aircraft, single-engine turboprop. There is no type rating for that aircraft. Also, it's certified as a single-pilot aircraft. Thus, the SIC or the first officer is not actually necessary, and most of these operators are approved to operate single pilot with just the captain in the left seat. However, these are great breeding grounds. They're great mentoring grounds for pilots to go in there at the 750-hour mark to go into the right seat of a single-engine turboprop and then move over to the left seat, build their hours till they get their Part 135 PIC minimums, which is around 1,200 hours. And then from there, they can move on to get to their 1,500 hours to get their ATP. Single-engine aircraft, single pilot, PIC, and an ATP is actually not required. You can fly on a commercial license. So again, it's just a great pathway up to the major airlines as people progress. This audit and this lapse in training or certification, we don't know if it was a PIC or an SIC. PICs have 3 different check rides that they have to do. SICs have 2 check rides. One is what's called a 135-293 ride. That's a VFR competency ride. That means it's a check ride that you know the airplane systems, that you can fly the airplane, you can do emergency procedures, you can do steep turn, you can fly the airplane. In addition to that, there's a 135-297 ride. That's an instrument proficiency check. That's where they verify that you can follow appropriate instrument procedures. That's every 6 months also. And then for PICs only, there's what's called a 299 ride, which is essentially you're flying in accordance with that company's operations manual, the GOM, or the flight crew handbook, and Part 135 regulations. That's basically a line check. We don't know what happened here, but the short snippet that we got from the FAA, it seemed like the pilot wasn't certified or didn't complete either the oral or the written portion of a check ride. Perhaps it wasn't documented. For the 293 and 297 rides, both of those are accompanied by a practical check as well as a knowledge check, and that can be either an oral or a written. In addition to this, because airlines are busy, there's a grace month. So we don't know if this lapse happened because the pilot went over their grace month or over their period, which is 30 days past when the check ride was due. We don't know if it was a clerical error on behalf of the pilot, but also a pilot should know when their check rides are due. They should know if a check ride wasn't completed or not. If it was an incomplete check, the pilot should have identified the fact that that their check ride wasn't complete. Also, it could have been that they failed the check ride or they failed the written portion and nobody caught it, something like that. But at the end of the day, the pilot should have known whether or not they would be able to fly with or without a complete check ride or within their grace period or any of those factors that I just mentioned. So we probably won't hear any more out of this, but from my experience, the passengers were probably not in any danger. They were just, nobody would have ever known. Interesting thought, really. You were saying that a co-pilot isn't necessarily required on in a Cessna of that type.
Yep, single engine turboprop Part 135. You are not required to have a first officer. The aircraft is certified for single pilot operations, so it's different. So like a King Air 200, it's a multi-engine airplane that's certified as single pilot. A King Air 300 is a 2-pilot airplane. So it depends on the airplane and how it was certified out of the factory. But in these Part 135s, first officers are not actually required. But it's a great pathway.
Nice.
Particularly with that story, I'll reiterate, we don't know if it was a PIC or an SIC. But
and explain what those are. So pilot in command.
And second in command.
And second in command, right. Okay, yep. Cool.
All right, my friends, I am going to take off and
see what you did
go
there.
Pick up my kid. You guys have a great rest of the show, and saludos to everybody in the chat room. Have a great week.
Thanks, Armando. Cheers. Take care.
So, moving on to the next story, and comes from Fox35Orlando.com. And this is all about the Airbus Beluga delivers French communications satellite to Florida ahead of launch. So the telecommunications satellite arrived in central Florida from France on Monday this week and was transported on board the massive Airbus Beluga. The aircraft touched down at Orlando Sanford International Airport mid-afternoon, marking a crucial step before its scheduled launch into orbit atop SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket at the Kennedy Space Center. And the satellite is set to orbit Earth for over a decade. And Airbus manufactured the satellite, which is a key player in providing TV broadcasting and government services throughout Africa and Eurasia. Its extensive journey from France to Florida posed challenges requiring significant fuel and over 2 days of travel. Unlike some cargo, satellites cannot be disassembled and must be transported in their entirety from the manufacturing site to the launch pad. Airbus has gone to great lengths to facilitate the process, even establishing a dedicated airline utilising the Beluga aircraft to transport the oversized cargo. The pilot who brought the satellite from France expressed pride in flying the unique Beluga aircraft, emphasising its rarity and limited number of qualified pilots. While the satellite's final destination is the KSC, the decision to land at Orlando Sanford International Airport was because it provides more flexibility, making it a preferred choice for the leg of the journey. The satellite, designed to enhance global broadcast business coverage and performance, is expected to operate for around about 15 years and contribute significantly to the telecommunications landscape. So the overview of the Beluga, the aircraft we all love to see in the skies. Registered Foxtrot Golf Sierra Tango Foxtrot took off from Toulouse Black Airport, or TLS, in France, landing at Terceira Lares Airport in Portugal on March the 10th, 2024. Subsequently, it departed there and crossed the ocean to St. John's Airport in Canada on the following day before completing its journey, flying from Canada to Portsmouth International Airport, and finally then on to SFB on March the 11th. That's quite a flight for this, guys. Obviously, we know the Beluga flies obviously parts between, is it Brighton, isn't it, Nev? Is it Brighton up north?
Yeah, Broughton, and Toulouse and other parts of Europe as well, yes.
Yeah, I think if you catch these guys on Flight Radar 24, you're quite lucky, because I've caught them a handful of times, but it's sort of hard to catch when these guys are doing their flights, which they do quite regularly, actually. But there are quite a few people who are lucky enough to see these flying at reasonably low level across the UK. You see when he's Nick up close or in the air?
I keep missing it, actually. There's a daily flight that goes from Toulouse up to the site near Chester, and it flies. So I'm in Devon, and it basically sort of flies just off the Devon coast. And it's kind of mid-morning every day, and I'm either not near enough to the coast to see it or it's cloudy, but I keep seeing it on Flight Radar and thinking, I really want to catch a glimpse of it.
We need to try and get to see when he's up close now.
Well, they've got a very good at Harden Airport, where this operates from. They've got a very good cafe called Chocks Away Diner. And I have got a customer that is only about 3 or 4 miles away from the airport. So when I go to see him sometimes, we go there for breakfast and see if we can time it by looking at the Belugas as well. So, it's a good day. Quite a long way from where you are, Carlos. It's almost, the furthest away you can be from where you live. It's apart from the breakfast there, which is just sensational, the views and the aviation park there are brilliant as well. So it's a really good time out. And they actually, on their Facebook page, tell you when the scheduled departures and arrivals are of the Belugas as well. So it's time your arrival accordingly.
Love that.
That'd be handy. That'd be nice to see this up close, definitely.
Yeah.
It'd be even nice in there to go on board the aircraft and see what it's like on that cargo deck.
I bet it looks huge, doesn't it? I bet it's just like this sort of big sort of cavernous thing, and of course it is literally so that they can fly things like engines and random parts and all that kind of thing around, isn't it? It's crazy. I have seen it from a distance when myself and Owen went to Toulouse, and you sort of see it at the runway there. It's a fascinating aircraft, isn't it?
Very much so. Yeah. From that story on to the next, Matt, you're going across to another, say, regional airline based here in the UK.
Indeed. UKAviation.news is the source for this one, and the headline is Loganair appoints new CEO. UK regional airline Loganair has confirmed that it has appointed Luca Farajala, I think. Apologies if I've got that wrong. Farah Jalal as its new Chief Executive Officer with effect from the 4th of March. Luke brings a wealth of experience in the aviation industry, having held senior roles at Flybe, BA, City Express and Bryman Airways. He's also held roles at EasyJet and Wizz Air. Outside of the airline industry, Luke has worked in the onshore and offshore rotary sectors as CEO of Specialist Aviation and MD of Bond Offshore Helicopters. Peter Simpson, Executive Chairman of Logan Air, said, "We are pleased to welcome Luke to Logan Air as our Chief Executive Officer. His commitment to operational excellence and resilience aligns perfectly with our mission to continually improve the services we offer to our valued customers." Luke said, "I am looking forward to commencing this exciting role on the 4th of March and to meeting and engaging with people of Logan Air and our key partners. I feel a great sense of responsibility to ensure Logan Air continues its proud tradition of being present in key regional areas and connecting people from some of the most remote areas of the UK. I'm grateful to the board for entrusting me to lead this exceptional airline and its loyal workforce into the future." Now, interesting question here. How do we feel about the state of regional aviation in the UK since the demise of Flybe?
Well, we need it, don't we? I mean, the trains aren't very reliable. We've got a load more strikes coming up. Regional airlines are very important, I think, in the United Kingdom and Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. But they have got to sort out some of the prices. Like Aurigny, we were mentioning earlier on. But if they can make the prices sensible and use the sort of aircraft that Logan Air use, the turboprop fleet and the small jet fleets, to make it all work, then that's great, because I think there's definitely a real requirement for those, longer parts of the journey, sort of Exeter to Newcastle or Aberdeen to Southampton, that sort of stuff, and then the Channel Islands and the island of Ireland as well. So yeah, absolutely. And I like Logan Air a lot. They're great airline. My first ever Logan Air trip was in 1986 on a Shorts 360 from Edinburgh to Belfast City Airport, and it was the windiest and bumpiest flight I've ever been on. Nothing even gets close to it. It was horrific. But yes, I live to tell the tale.
Yes, thank goodness for that, Nev. That's all I'm saying to that one. Goodness me.
Yeah, just looking at Logan Air's flights, Nev. If you want to go from London, London Allpet, I suppose we need a choice of all airports in London here. Go from Heathrow, let's say, to Dundee. I don't know whether you've done that trip before, Nev, but London to Dundee with Logan Air will set you back just shy of £400.
Oh dear.
That is a big number, isn't it?
It's too much, isn't it?
It is a big number.
Yeah.
Mind you,
that would be a business class fare with BA.
It would.
Be less than that.
Yeah.
It would be less than that, yes. BA, definitely, yeah. But except they don't fly to Dundee, so there you go.
That's the trouble, isn't it? And I suppose let's be. I mean, these flights exist in these areas. They receive, supportive funding to run these flights to these areas for a reason, don't they? I mean, that is the harsh reality of it all, and I guess that is the reason. If that is your only reliable way of getting from one place to another on some of these islands, then I guess you are going to be paying these numbers.
Yes, but I think the governments, whether it's the devolved governments in other parts of the United Kingdom or the main UK government, these, a bit like the ferries, all that fiasco that's been going on with the late building of the ferries. These are essential air links to the Highlands and Islands, especially, and I think there should be a proper subsidy and a proper conversation going on in the transport departments about how they're going to make these flights more sensibly priced for the islanders and the people on the mainland too.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So, Nev, you're moving on to you next with the next story, Nev, and BA getting all tech.
Yes, well, of course, not the first time we've seen motorised things going on at BA. I can think of the pushback tugs and that sort of stuff. Well, this is on the independent.co.uk, and it says British Airways is planning to use driverless baggage tugs at Gatwick Airport to help in the battle against staff shortages across the aviation industry. The Telegraph reported that one of the self-driving robot baggage carriers could be trialled by the International Consolidated Airlines Group, which is the parent company of BA, at Gatwick Airport as early as May. If successful, the machines, including some equipped with unloading arms, could improve the efficiency and turnaround times of baggage claim at airports. Well, last July, the threat of ground handling strikes at Gatwick Airport over one of the busiest weekends of the year was lifted after companies made improved pay offers to workers, but short staffing continues. The Senior Vice President for Airport Futures at IAG, Steve McGowan, said that the baggage tugs require 90% less labour and equipment from baggage handling staff. IAG is exploring innovative ways to help its airlines run their operations as smoothly as punctually as possible. We are working with Origo to trial the use of autonomous baggage trolleys to help support the work of the fantastic baggage teams at our group airlines and our ground handling partners. Well, the Origo machines are priced at between £100,000 and £250,000, have been tested at Changi Airport in Singapore since 2020 and were previously trialled part-time at Heathrow by BA. Origo technology provides the robots with a digital replica of an airport's floor plan so that they can learn to overcome possible hazards and navigate direct routes to ferry baggage to aircraft from the terminals. Professor David Keane, Origo's chief executive, said that long wait times and missing baggage can really dent the customer experience. He added airlines want to be able to offer consistently good standards from a customer point of view as well. Often you're in the airport building and it's fantastic, you're on the plane and it's quite modern, but then you get off and it's lotto time at the baggage carousel. Yes, waiting for luggage. We've all been there, haven't we? Interesting. Yes. Well, as long as they can do it safely, that's fine. I'm sure the unions might have something to say about this.
Yeah.
With potential replacing staff with machines, but you know, we've been there before, haven't we? You know, all sorts of areas of aviation and other things as well. So let's see if they're going to trial them. Let's see how that works. It's going to be May, they reckon. So let's see.
How long is it going to be before one of these hits a nacelle, aircraft engine nacelle?
Oh,
you know,
I couldn't possibly say. But also the other thing is I'm surprised. I was at Heathrow. Where was I? Oh, we were coming back from Budapest the other day, and the speed of which some of the ground handling trucks move around the aircraft is a bit on the far side for my liking. Now, there are speed limits and they are enforced by the airport police at Heathrow and other places as well. But yeah, I mean, you've got to know what you're doing because, you know, the aircraft always has priority when they're moving around. Now, obviously, this is in a stationary situation. This is slightly different. But yeah, let's see what happens. Be interesting to see how they get along with this at Gatwick, won't it?
Yeah, very much. Moving on to the last story in the commercial segment this week, and well, an aircraft that you're familiar with, Nev. I know that through previous shows. This is all about the Concorde returning to Intrepid following its restoration. I tell you what, Nev, they need to do this with the one at Heathrow, don't they?
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah.
Many of you may have seen some iconic images on social media in August last year of Concorde floating up New York City's Hudson River on a barge. The famous shot by Matt Puggs on Instagram is a particularly impressive shot. This was all part of a relocation for the aircraft for an intensive restoration project carried out on behalf of the Intrepid Museum, who've been giving the BA Concorde a fresh lick of paint. It's sadly been more than 20 years since this supersonic airliner graced our skies, so it's very reassuring to see the museum has taken care of one of its most prized features, having been subject to the rigours of New York weather since 2003. The aircraft made its way back home to Intrepid last week, following months of long restoration in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. On Wednesday, the Concorde was loaded onto a barge and travelled up the Hudson River to the Weeks Marine in Jersey City, New Jersey, for storage overnight. On Thursday, March began its final journey back to the museum. Approximately 2 hours after its arrival, the aircraft was lifted by a 300-foot crane and returned to Pier 86. The pier was open to the public to allow visitors to view Concorde's final arrival. And I know Matt's got some pictures of this. It's very stunning. The BA Concorde was the fastest commercial aircraft in the world, having been a staple of the Intrepid Museum since its arrival to Pier 86. The months-long restoration project included removal of the aircraft's paint coating, sanding and recoating using the same colours and markings that made Concorde a true aviation legend. Concurrent with the restoration, the museum is renovating a section of Pier 86 adjacent to where Concorde is displayed. There's also tours of Concorde which will resume on April the 4th. Visitors will also be able to go inside Concorde to hear about its story and peer into its sophisticated flight deck. The Intrepid's British Airways Concorde still holds the record for the fastest transatlantic crossing by a passenger aircraft, 2 hours and 52 minutes and 59 seconds from Heathrow to JFK. There we go. What do you think, Nev?
Oh, it's marvellous, isn't it? It's so nice to see it looking nice again. But also, have you noticed that we're actually seeing it from angles that you would not normally see it from as well? And the way that delta wing has different curves and different lines to it when you actually see it from different angles. It's such a unique aircraft, and the engineering and the design that went into just that wing on its own is just amazing. Absolutely extraordinary.
Stunning. If only we could go back in time, hey Matt, and have a flight on Concorde.
I would have loved to have sort of experienced it and all that kind of thing. Although, I mean, like the ones that I have been on, you know, it's sort of surprising how dated the interior was. do you know, even at the point when it was retired, if you see what I mean. But I don't know. There must have been a way they could have kept at least one of these serviceable and flying.
It would have been nice.
I think so, yeah.
I think when you look at the military aircraft that have been preserved and they still can do fast taxi runs, or they still...
I mean, the taxi run is no good to us, though, is it? Let's be honest, in a Concorde.
Well, I think remember the whole thing about this is that Airbus, who were the incumbent manufacturer, effectively, just hiked the maintenance cost up to a level that BA nor Air France could afford. Right. And it's a highly technical aircraft, and let alone, I mean, all the crews are well into their 70s, 80s and 90s now as well. So, yeah, I mean, we're not going to see one flying again.
No, I know.
But and I think that there were too many things around it that would have prevented it from flying again, even for exhibition and air shows and that kind of stuff. Again, a great pity, but let's at least look after the ones that are on the deck and in museums, like the Alpha that we saw when Carlos and I went up to East Fortune. But Alpha Bravo that's at Heathrow is just, it looks a very, very sorry state of affairs. It's awful, isn't it? I remember John Hutchinson saying when we went to see him, how unloved he thought it looked as well. Terrible shame. But they need to do more with that, definitely.
Now, Nev, we're going to stick with you because what have we got coming up next?
Well, we're going back to Dublin, which we like doing, because we're playing out another interview that we did at the Drone Summit, which is really, really interesting. And thank you ever so much for those that have liked it and shared it on LinkedIn and Facebook, all the interviews we've been doing. This one will be going up later on this evening after we've played it out. But this one is really interesting because Wana Murasan has a wealth of experience backed by over 15 years in the aviation sector. So she's currently at the helm of a dynamic team of business development managers at OSL Technology, and Oana spearheads innovative projects focusing on ground and air-based counter-drone defence projects. Her journey in the field began with a deep-rooted passion for aviation, leading to a series of pivotal roles in both operational and commercial roles at Aer Lingus, Heathrow Airport, and now at OSL. In her current role, Wana is instrumental in promoting cutting-edge solutions to address the growing challenges posed by unauthorised drone activities. Well, our good chum Matt C spoke to Wana on the OSL booth at the Drone Summit in Dublin.
Well, next I'm joined by Wana, who is working for OSL, and they have something a bit different to some of the other exhibitors here, where they're actually counter or anti-drone, aren't you?
Yes.
So tell us a bit about OSL.
So OSL is a company that was established in 2010. Most of our founders are from an ex-military background. After they finished serving their tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, they came to the UK to set up a drone detection and MOD advising services, consultancy services in the UK. And then after the incident at Gatwick and Heathrow, our technology came in handy for civilian airports.
Lovely. Yeah, so I guess now more than ever, drones are becoming a lot more popular, and regulations are tightening up, and there's certain geofencing stopping drones going in certain areas, but it's been a big issue with affecting events or particularly airports. Obviously we had the famous incident in Gatwick 2018, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about the risks and how people can affect airports with their drones.
So drones themselves are not a bad thing. Drones are a good thing. We can put them to use just like we did mobile phones years ago. You can use them for deliveries, for surveys. It can really reduce the manpower for the survey of a facade of a building instead of having a massive, what's the word for it?
Scaffold.
Yeah. You can just have, and putting people's lives at risk, you can just have one pilot, one drone, scan it really quickly. However, having a tool that's used for good means it can also be used for bad. So yes, regulations do exist to limit the drone usage, but that doesn't really stop people that are either careless or have bad intentions.
Yeah.
So yes, drones can pose a risk to life at an airport, which is a critical national infrastructure, to the aircraft, to the people on the aircraft, to people on the ground. They can be used for surveillance and for reconnaissance, for an attack. At a stadium, you can fly a drone and release some flour out of a bag, and it can cause pandemonium.
Yeah.
Or it can spy on a government building. So anything that we're given can be used for good or bad. So that's why OSL have detection technology and integration of various different detection sensors in order to give any site situational awareness.
So tell us a bit more about the products you sell there. There's three main products you have, wasn't there? Tell me what they are.
Yes, so our main USP is what we call FACE, is our command and control platform, and it's a sensor and effector agnostic platform. So you can have a large airport like Heathrow, which has a lot of different sensors, a multi-layered approach, and instead of having a command and control for every one of those sensors, what we offer is the integration into one platform, and you can monitor and manage the drone threat from that one platform, which can be multi-rolled for other things like telematic management or perimeter intrusion detection systems. The other thing we have is a piece of hardware that we call SkySight, and it's a camera that it's got a fixed camera on it and a pan tilt zoom on it. The fixed camera stares at a particular area that is programmed to do that, and when it sees something moving in front of it, the PTZ camera goes to it, and it has image analytics on it, and it can detect, track and classify the object, whether it's a bird, a drone, a vehicle or people. And the other thing we offer is the Insight module, which is an AI image analytics module that can be attached to your cameras. If you already have some high-performing cameras on your site, you can just install this module on it and make your cameras smart, so you can introduce that detect, track and identify on a normal camera at a much lower cost.
Excellent. And so is it mainly airports, your customers, or do you have other uses or other users of it?
So we started with civilian airports. at the moment we protect other critical national infrastructure like stadia, like Wembley in London, government buildings, and we do quite a lot of work for the MOD in the UK as well.
Lovely. We had the incident in, I think it was January 19 at Heathrow, was
Yes.
it? Where there was a report of a drone. It turned out to not be a drone in the end. A lot of our listeners are pilots themselves, either
Sure.
commercial or GA. What would your feedback be to pilots that if they see an object or something like that?
Yep. So we call detection technology sensors. So whether that's RF, camera, radar, or a human seeing, reporting something unusual, it's also a sensor. So it's inherently very useful. But I would urge pilots to be careful with the language if they detect a moving object. If they see a moving object in the sky, to call it as such. There are a lot of reported sightings by pilots who are on approach and takeoff, being the most sterile times, have a lot going on. So really taking the time to report that you see an object is really generous of pilots. But I would say that I would ask that these are reported as objects rather than a drone. And if the airport has a detection system, the ultimate objective of that system is to prove that there isn't a drone and the pilots can bring that aircraft into land safely or take off. So really useful data source. It's just not always as reliable. And because also as humans, we're fallible, and also you're coming into land really, really fast. How much time do you have to really see whether it's a drone, what type of drone is it, how big it is?
Yeah, lovely. So maybe a message for pilots would be maybe say you've seen an object rather than you making the statement that it's a drone.
Yes.
And let the technology confirm what that is. Lovely. And you gave a good analogy earlier when we were talking. So you used to be a cabin crew yourself, didn't you? And you were saying that, you know, if you had something in the cabin, you wouldn't necessarily lead someone with with a...
So I was cabin crew for Aer Lingus. I worked for Aer Lingus for a long time. 4 of those years were cabin crew. And if we ever noticed something unusual in the cabin, we would ask each other, have you noticed something unusual, instead of saying, do you smell smoke? Because you then lead the person to only focus on that. So have you noticed something unusual, then turns on all your senses. So seeing an object in the sky then turns on other people's senses and sensors to see, is there something unusual? Is there an object? Is it a bird? Is it a plastic bag? Or is it a balloon? Or maybe it's a drone.
Yeah, lovely. And leave those open-ended questions that other people decide.
Yes.
Lovely. So if people are interested in your services, where can they find more information?
So look us up on the website, osltechnology.com. I have a presentation at the event later on, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Wana Murashan. You can find us on all the usual ways. It's not hard to find us. Google OSL Technology.
Lovely. And we'll put the links on the show notes as well.
Thank you. Yeah,
lovely.
Thanks.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you.
Wow. I mean, everyone's just brilliant, isn't it? All the interviews and stuff. It was so nice to learn about a subject that we all admit we don't really know a great deal about.
Yeah, I didn't expect to see anti-drone technology at a drone summit, but
no,
there you go.
Quite.
That's what we did.
Indeed.
But no, thanks very much to Wana and the OSL team for allowing us to do that. And so that interview will be up on our LinkedIn page and our Facebook page later on this evening.
Nice. Look forward to that, Nev. Thank you.
That was very interesting, and a very interesting time we had there as well. And I think we can definitely all say we all learned something over those 3 or the 3 day or 2 days we were there.
We were in a very weird situation when we went there, weren't we? Because for the first time in life ever, I had more knowledge and experience about a subject matter that we were going to be spending the weekend talking about than ever than you guys, which is very strange. I didn't like it at all.
So we've got the all-important Caption This next. I know, and this week I put the picture up on the social medias on our Facebook page, and I think, if I remember rightly, it was within 3 minutes of me putting it up on Facebook. There was 5 or 6 comments straight away, and I think one of them piqued your interest as well, didn't it, Nev?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
So, for the benefit of those of you listening in the world of audio land, Nev, what picture what do we have on our
Well, a very slim-looking Boeing 747 from British Airways, minus the wings and the engines as well. And of course, there was no shortage of comments to go with it this time round. Should we start with a fella called Nick Codling? He says new Boeing quality strategy: build less plane, have less problems. And the pedant in me will say fewer, but that would be poor, especially as our chum
as he's here.
On the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not very good.
Hashtag awkward.
John Luke says British Airways sponsor the British Olympic bobsleigh team.
Oh dear! Don't ask me to read them.
Okay, Nick, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, the next one is from Nick Anderson. I think we all know who that is.
Heard of him.
He says, "On a wing and a prayer." No, just a prayer.
I see.
Will Turner says, "I see Boeing's quality control has improved."
This is going to be the way this is going to go tonight. Chris Ekel says, "I told you not to eat the wings."
Nick?
Oh, the next one from James Taylor. Thought we'd wing it.
Sinead Adams says, introducing the Boeing no-wing super streamlined for the type of performance you've come to expect. Not to mention a lot less to fall off or forget.
Darren Smith says, I know the cutbacks at BA these days are terrible, but have they been even cut back the wings?
Nick?
Yeah, we got another one here from James Graves Brown. This is what happens to retired BA 747s. They get turned into double-decker tour buses and live out their days touring the streets of London.
I would love
can
to
you
see.
imagine trying to get one of those?
I'd pay good money for that. Yeah, try getting it round Trafalgar Square though.
I had enough trouble trying to get what was mine? It was 40 foot, wasn't it? So it was 12.5 meters basically. I had enough trouble trying to get a 12.5 meter coach around the streets of London, let alone. Oh, no thanks, no thank you. How long is a 7.4?
We'll look it up in a second.
Okay, right.
John Falk says Boeing's new bath toy with enhanced chocolate.
I do.
Tom Hathaway says, after success with the 777X design, Boeing seems to have got carried away with the idea of folding wings.
Yeah, folding? Like, I mean, it's not like the air stairs that they can pop in underneath, is it?
No.
Oh dear.
Sorry, Nick.
God, I was going to say I have to engage my pilot voice for this next one. So it's Norwich International Control. We have a problem.
I think yes. It's just definitely a severe problem. I think.
And some breaking news: the Boeing 747-400 length is 70.67 meters, or 231 feet.
Gosh, yeah. So quite a bit bigger than no.
That's not going around Marble Arch.
No, it's not. Right. Yeah, I don't know if you'd even get it down the Mall.
No. Well, Gordon says Boeing's new road train, no wings, no engines, more reliable, even has a front opening door.
Oh, for goodness sake.
James Graves Brown says again, he says, say goodbye to planes taking up too much room at airports. With the new 747 Slim, you can fit 10 times as many jets. Only one problem is they don't move.
No, they don't move, they don't take off, so they just clutter up.
No, this next one, I love this one from Mazouz. Nev, you got this one?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Mazouz says they've left some mega FOD somewhere.
Very good. Now, Nev, I want you to take this last one because this is the one that piqued your interest.
This is, I'm afraid, thank you everybody for sending in your suggestion. This is the winner. There is no prize for this, Neil, I'm afraid. But
are you ready for this?
This is from an industry colleague of mine, Neil Draper, who I've known for many years. He says, Kate Middleton takes up new job as an aviation photographer. Brilliant. and very timely as well.
Oh,
Well done, Neil.
Oh, dear.
Oh my!
I must have read that 100 times. It still makes me laugh.
Yeah.
So good.
That's just.
Big thanks to everyone who's commented on there this week. Don't forget to comment next. When I put it on, hopefully I'll try and get it on Sunday this week, because I've actually got this next week's Caption This picture already on my my device, ready to upload. And this week's one is going to be an absolute corker. So make sure you check out our Facebook page. Info on that at the end of the show.
Yeah.
What we got in the chat room, Nev?
Well, Neil Lamorne says you were only supposed to blow the bloody door off. Tried to do a Michael Caine accent there, but failed.
Right. Okay.
And then Turk S says problems with bolts at Boeing getting out of hand. And then Micah says sometimes the wing root does not take seed.
Word.
What was it? There was one from. I'm trying to see where Richard Adams had one, didn't he? That was earlier on. I'm just trying to find that. No, maybe not.
Well, there was this one from Richard. Winglets, wings, why bother?
That's the one. Yes, yeah, that's the one. Love that. Oh dear, never mind. Okay,
some great stuff there.
Yeah,
thank you.
Well done,
Thanks, everyone. Thanks everyone for your comments. Very, very good indeed. And as I said, I'll pop this week's one up on Sunday, guys. If I forget, remind me, will you please? Next, tell you what, as Armando's not here at the moment because he had to nip off, Nev, do you want to introduce the next part of the show?
Oh, yes, of course. This is my favourite part of the show. And if everybody's ready, this is the military section, everybody.
Lots of bogies, 135, 50, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay. 108 bogies.
And the first story this week's come from the aerotime.aero. And this is all about the F-35, the Danish ones to be more, Danish ones. The timeline for the delivery of the next batch of Danish Lockheed Martin F-35A Lightning II fighter jets remains unclear, prompting the Defence Minister Troels Lund Poulsen to urge the armed forces to explore contingency plans in case of potential delays. He said today, I informed the Constellation Circle that there is still uncertainty about the delivery of the next F-35 fighter jets, Poulsen said in a statement. He said it's too early to say what this will mean, but I'll have to ask the Danish Defence Forces to look at possible initiatives to counter the delay. Lockheed Martin, the manufacturer of the F-35, aims to have the first aircraft in TR-3 configuration ready by July 2024. The TR-3 configuration is designed to enable modernised Block 4 capabilities for the F-35 aircraft by providing it with additional computing power. Block 4 is expected to feature a range of significant system upgrades, including an improved radar system, upgraded electronic warfare capabilities, and a new set of long-range precision weapons. However, there is significant risk of delays, which means the exact delivery timeframe is uncertain. Lockheed Martin has disclosed that it has encountered setbacks in the flight certification process for TR-3 due to unexpected challenges faced by its subcontractor. Oh, it's always a subcontractor, isn't it, every time? L3 Harris. The latter is responsible for producing the F-35's new integrated core processor. Sounds like a job for you, Matt. According to the Danish Ministry of Defence, the armed forces will be planning proactive measures to address the potential impact of any delay. These include considering the temporary repatriation of some Danish F-35A fighters currently deployed at the Joint Training Facility in Arizona over in the USA, exploring support from other nations for continued pilot training, and evaluating options for acquiring or borrowing F-35s from partner nations. The F-35 fighter jets are a major investment for Denmark, crucial for the defence and security for years to come, Poulsen emphasised. The Danish ministry has stated that the current situation is not expected to affect Denmark's commitment to donating F-16 aircraft to the Ukraine or its obligations to NATO in crisis situations. And in August 2023, Denmark, the Netherlands and Norway pledged to deliver their respective fleets of fighters. So delays all right. It's not just on the commercial scene, guys. There's military as well. They can't keep up with demand for these new F-35s.
The trouble is, I can imagine in the military world, of course, they want things tomorrow or yesterday, preferably, don't they? And, you know, lead times and all the rest of it. So planning for military capability must be very challenging because you don't know what's next, really, do you?
No, you don't.
What the threats are. So it was only a few years ago we were all being told, oh, well, we're not doing, you know, we don't need much military capability these days because it's the cyber attacks and all the rest of it. But as has been shown in very recent years, you know, the military capability of this nature is still vital part of countries' defence, isn't it?
So, Nev, you've got the next story, and it's all about the replacement, I should say, for that aircraft that we've all seen over in that hangar at Duxford.
Yes, the SR-72. This is on interestingengineering.com, and Lockheed Martin's highly anticipated uncrewed hypersonic aircraft, the SR-72, son of Blackbird, is allegedly scheduled to take its first flight in 2025. Believed to be a top-secret project for the United States Air Force, the SR-72 is touted to reach over 4,000 miles per hour, making it the fastest plane ever developed. Its role will likely include activities similar to those of its veteran predecessor, the venerable SR-71 Blackbird. Well, the SR-72 is widely considered to be the natural successor for this other aircraft, the SR-71, which set speed records in 1974 and is retired by the US Air Force in 1998 as the fastest manned aircraft. The SR-72 is allegedly designed to be unmanned, hypersonic and reusable. Its primary functions will likely be intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance activities. It's also believed that the SR-72 will support Lockheed Martin's new high-speed strike weapon, enhancing its striking ability. The aircraft's combat capabilities make it ideal for striking targets in dangerous environments where manned aircraft would be too slow and risky. According to reports, the new weapon system can fire hypersonic weapons faster than any other weapon and instantly achieve hypersonic speeds. Moreover, it can maintain these speeds for longer periods. Reportedly designed to operate without a human pilot, this plane has the potential to revolutionise the way the military uses aircraft. For high speed of over 4,000 miles per hour, it's important to the military as it enables them to reach their destination very quickly. I wouldn't have realised that, but there you go. For example, with this speed, they can travel from the US to Europe in just over an hour and a half. Jet engine technology has significantly improved since the SR-71 was developed. However, to survive on the modern battlefield, a more advanced form of propulsion is required to achieve the necessary speeds that the SR-72 will achieve, the National Interest reports. To evade modern air defences, the SR-72 aircraft must be capable of reaching hypersonic speeds, and only rocket-powered aircraft and spacecraft or single-use technology demonstrators have achieved these speeds so far. Conventional turbojet and turbofan engines can provide enough power to an aircraft during takeoff and landing at subsonic speeds. However, they cannot sustain hypersonic speeds. Whilst there are jet engines that can power an aircraft at hypersonic speeds, they cannot be used during takeoff and landing. To this end, the SR-72 requires an engine that can do both. The SR-72 program is focused on developing a fully reusable turbine-based combined cycle, TBCC, hypersonic propulsion system. The propulsion system is a kind of air-breathing jet engine that combines the turbofan engines used in many modern tactical aircraft with a supersonic combustion ramjet, also known as a scramjet, that's capable of achieving and sustaining speeds above Mach 5 and even potentially exceeding Mach 10.
Mach 10. That seems like a very fast number.
Yes. Well, there we go. 2025 is only just around the corner, isn't it?
It's really close, isn't it? Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Goodness me. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, sticking with the Dublin theme that we just had a few moments ago, Matt, you've got the next story.
Indeed. The headline on this one is "You too could have a drone land in your garden." The aviationist.com is the source for this one. US MQ-9 loses contact with control station in Poland, makes emergency landing near base. On the 18th of March 2024, after 2300 LT. What's LT, just out of interest?
Local time.
Local time, right, okay, in the US, right, I'm with you. A US MQ-9 Reaper drone carried out an emergency landing in an uninhabited area in Poland. According to the details released by the Polish General Command of the Armed Forces, the unmanned aircraft was launched from... Mirosławek Air Base, apologies if that's incorrect, in northwest Poland, and was performing a scheduled quarterly training inside the Polish airspace when it lost contact with the base. In accordance with the standard procedures in case of loss of control, the aircraft carried out an emergency landing. It's not clear whether the remotely piloted aircraft was damaged, but the crash landing site was secured by the Polish military police. The US MQ-9 was probably one of the civilian-registered unarmed Block 5 Reapers, which are flown and maintained by contractors, with the Air Force providing communications, intelligence analysis and force protection as part of the 52nd Expeditionary Operations Group Detachment 2, a geographically separated unit assigned to the 52nd Fighter Wing at Spagalum in Germany. The mission of the detachment is to conduct intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, and has been operating from Mirosławek AB in Poland since May 2018. The reason for the loss of control of the MQ-9 is unknown at this time, although there are chances it was due to be jamming. That has been particularly strong in the region lately. A few days ago, an RAF Dassault 900 LX business jet transporting the UK Defence Secretary Grant Shapps, flying in the area in the Baltic, generated GPS jamming, while it's not clear whether the British jets were targeted or not by electronic warfare, just transitioning through an area of GPS jamming. Who knows?
Yeah, I did see that story on the Newswires this week, actually, about that. But, yeah, this is the sort of drone that would take quite an extensive back garden to use. This isn't like the one that you've got, unfortunately, Matt. Although we did have some fun, didn't we, the other week, trying to get yours flying again, which we nearly succeeded, actually, to be fair. And I still would love to get one of the, or still would love to get a drone myself. But as I said to Matt before, I'd probably end up crashing the thing. Yeah. Nick, you've got the next story, or the next special interest segment, I should say, for the show. You got some pictures here, didn't you, from a very good photographer?
Yes. Yeah, these popped up on Facebook yesterday, actually, and I just wanted to throw them in. Matt, I don't know if you're able to put those up, please, but yeah, I just wanted to mention a chap called Paul Dibben, who is a photographer who's based in Sherborne in Dorset, and he took some fantastic aerial images of the Voyager Airbus aircraft, which we might all know it as Boris Force One. But it's also, well, not only can it be used as a sort of VIP transport, but it can also be turned into a refueling configuration. And yeah, some amazing images of that shown flying over Dorset and yeah, doing a bit of air-to-air refueling. It's pretty cool to think that was all going on above our heads. And yeah, it's one of those things that they don't always show up on flight radar, but yeah, there seems to be sometimes some people in the know that spot these things and post up some pretty cool photos. So if any of you are interested in that kind of thing and happen to live in this part of the world, or even if you don't, the group on Facebook is called the Southwest Aviation Movements UK. And there seems to be quite a lot of people on there that do photography. And the gentleman, Paul, that took these, he's actually on the photo sharing website Flickr with the username YogiBear44. He's actually got some lovely photos on there, not just aviation stuff, but all kinds of stuff, actually. But some brilliant ones. And the one of the Voyager there. With
that one with the moon in the background.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. And actually, if you you probably won't be able to see it very well on YouTube, but actually, if you check that one out on the Flickr page and you zoom in on the photo, you can see the refueling booms there, trailing from the sort of back of the wings there, and it's just it's fantastic. It's such a good photo. So forgive my indulgence for having to post those up. I just thought that was a pretty cool thing.
Thanks for that, Nick. Always good to see some great photography, because we do have some really good photographers in our community, don't we, guys? With the likes of Jonathan Warner and also Dan Hannington as well, producing some great photos. Don't forget as well, you can always send us a photo. If you want to have a photo on the green screens behind me here, Nick, and also Matt as well in the PTK studio, send us your pictures through the WhatsApp number or email. Details on that later, and you can have your picture on the screen behind me here. Nev, it's time to bring back one of our listeners' favourite part of the show.
Yes, it's the quiz. We are back with the quiz, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm pleased to say. And we've got to thank our very good chum, Sam, our 757-767 pilot, who has donated some books to us. But first of all, of course, we need the question. So Matt's going to put up a picture of an aircraft. And we know this, of course, as the Airbus A321 XLR. It's the latest in long-range aircraft. And, of course, we know this because it usually starts with an A321neo. But the extra long-range capability of this aircraft starts with the engine and then the aerodynamic improvements introduced over the A321neo. So we know that XLR in this case stands for extra long-range capability. But, of course, XLR does also mean something else, doesn't it? In the audio world, we know the XLR as a connector that's often used for microphones, but it can also be used for power and other types of connectivity too. So what we would like to know in audio terms, what does XLR stand for?
Never bounds.
What a cracking question that is, even though I say it myself. So we would like to know in audio terms, what does XLR stand for? The prize is this fantastic book called A Broken Propeller. And it's been kindly donated, as I said, to us by Sam. And The Broken Propeller is the story of his great-uncle Baz Bagby, who was an observer in World War I, became a pilot after the war and took part in the Great Air Race. In fact, a transcontinental air race after World War I. It's a fantastic read. I was having a little flick through it earlier today. Author is by Betty Gork, and she's actually signed it on the opening page. You probably can't see that on my screen, I don't think, in the book itself, which is marvellous. So a really interesting read, and thank you very much indeed to Sam for donating the book, and I really hope it goes to a good owner. So that question once again, in audio terms, what does XLR stand for? Please send your answers, not in the chat room, but send it to podcast@planetalkinguk.com. That's podcast@planetalkinguk.com, and we will draw out the winners on next week's show. And Mrs. Nev can post the book because she's retired, because she's got more time than anybody else at the moment. So that's it. That's the question for this week.
Sorry, Neil Lamborn's on fire this evening, isn't he? Did you see the latest one, Nev, in the chat room from Neil regarding the photos that Nick had in that last piece we done?
Yes, I did. Yes. Can we display them? Well, I'm going to display it anyway. So
there we go.
So Neil says, if you zoom in all the way in, you can see Kate Middleton.
Right.
That's
okay.
Honestly. Oh, Neil. What are you like? Anyway, we're going to start to wrap up the show, guys and girls. So let's go with some social medias. Where can our lovely listeners find out more about us and send us those all-important pictures, Nev?
Oh, well, go to Facebook, Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, actually, and search your social medias for Plain Talking UK. You can contact the show on our WhatsApp number, which is +44 757 2249 That's +44 757 2249 As I mentioned earlier, you can email the show, podcast@plaintalkinguk.com, and our website is all the W's, plaintalkinguk.com. You can see us on YouTube as well. You can get notifications when we go live, and you can help to shape the conversation of the show by joining us in the chat room, as many of you have done tonight. So thank you for that. Just go to YouTube and search for Plain Talking UK. If you fancy helping us out with some of the running costs of the show, you can become a patron of the show, or you can donate some money to us using PayPal. Just go to the website and all the details are on there.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Nev. And yeah, looking forward to having some pictures to go. Some original pictures, please. We don't need Photoshop pictures to go on our green screens. So don't get any ideas, Neil. So that is where we're going to bring episode 495 to a close. Quick round robin. Nev, what are you up to next week?
Oh, next week I'm going to have going down to the West Country, down to Bristol, Cardiff and Exeter, which means I will be in the environs of Mr. Nick Codling, and he and I are going to enjoy a pub dinner on Monday night of next week.
How lovely.
I'm really looking forward to that. Which would be nice. And then, not many, sadly, not many restaurants open on a Monday night in Torquay, but this pub is that we're going to.
Still winter in it, that's the trouble.
Well, I know, exactly. But no, so we should be doing that. And then tomorrow I'm off to our office in Brighton for a couple of days to help with some seminars and filming and general stuff like that.
I bet your Premier Inn points are worth having, aren't they?
The Hilton ones, yes.
Oh, Hilton. Oh, hello. All
Hilton's.
Right. Oh, my apologies.
Sorry.
I thought you were a Premier Inn man. I do apologise. I take it all back.
No, and you don't get any points for Premier Inn.
Okay, right.
That's the other thing.
Fair enough.
Oh, dear me. Anyway, Matt, what you got next week?
No.
Very good. Thanks for that, Matt. Yes, I'm sure I shall see you at some point during the course of the next coming.
Most likely, yes.
Nick, what's going on in the world of two wheels next week?
Oh, well, I shall be ironing a shirt so I can look my best for my dinner date on Monday with Mr. Bounds.
How exciting. Lovely. Absolutely. Yes. Break out the sparkly number. I think that's the advice.
Oh, okay. Maybe a little off the shoulder.
I think so. Yes, absolutely.
I even shaved my legs.
Oh, steady.
And on that incredible bombshell, thanks to everyone who's tuned in tonight. Great to see you all in the chat room. Thanks to all the audio downloaders of the show as well. And thanks to everyone. Thanks to all the team. And Nick, as always, for putting together the show notes this week as well. Thanks to you. That's it. Have a great weekend, whatever you're up to, rest of the week. And we'll be back next Wednesday at 7 o'clock here on YouTube for the next live show. So from me, Carlos, here in the home studio, from Matt in the PTUK Master Suite Studios, from Nev in his home studio, and from Nick as well in his home studio. We'll see you all next Wednesday. Say goodbye, Nick.
Goodbye.